taped in Brooklyn, New York. In this episode, I commuted all the way to Brooklyn to catch up with the incredibly talented Ilya the Editor. We dive into how he evolved to successfully freelancing, editing everything from award-winning documentaries to reality TV hits. You won't want to miss his insights on balancing client expectations with creative integrity. So welcome to Behind the Carnival Barkers, an irreverent behind-the-scenes podcast that interviews the craftspeople who make unscripted television. Hosted by me, Amy Peters, who is a New York-based Emmy Award-winning editor and producer of nonfiction content. Ilya the Editor and the Carnies in the Coal Mine, Season 1, 6 episodes.
This show is supported by KizzleKit. Make your party a hit with KizzleKit. Please shop for your fancy lifestyle accessories at KizzleKit.com. That's www.kizzlekit.com.
Amy, welcome. Follow me. I'm gonna give you a tour.
Ooh,
This is the living room / kitchen.
wow. I even like the tile.
I mean, this is not House Hunters or anything. You don't have to spend too much time looking at the kitchen. Let's sit down and have a chat.
Wow, there's even closet space.
Yeah. It's where I store all of my video equipment and pillows. That's dumb.
Well, thanks for meeting with me for my podcast.
Thanks for coming out to my domicile.
Yes, and thanks for having me, because I wanted to see it after you told me all about your innovations.
Yeah.
And thanks for the tour that you just gave me. First, let's talk about your credits. Give me a little bit of background on where you came from, that fancy school of yours and beyond.
Do we need to talk about the fancy school of mine? The fancy school of mine, I went to Dartmouth College. I studied that's not true, not zero film, but I did one film class on Chinese cinema where I watched a bunch of really great Chinese films and enjoyed Wong Kar-wai and thought, oh, how wonderful. And then I spent 2 years not editing out of college because I thought, well, that can't possibly be a career. And hated my first job, which was in advertising. No shade to advertising generally. And then I quit because I could, and started as basically a person in the vault, which is not a thing anymore, but it's where all the materials were kept, literally film reels at that time, and digibetas, which were, I remember in like how we held digibetas in the greatest regard. They were the ultimate in data storage. Mm-hmm. So I spent 7 years at a commercial post house, and I worked my way up to assistant editor to editor. I worked on Wendy's commercials. While I was there, I worked on a feature. I did a fair amount of commercial work, and then the post house closed down, and I became a freelancer, which was scary initially. But then my first job took me through an ad agency, took me to Mississippi, where I worked on a follow doc, of all things advertising agencies do, about a local high school football team. And it was amazing. I mean, it was like cemented my love for documentaries generally, editing in particular, the putting a story together. And then I did lots of HGTV stuff, home renovation stuff. We did Breaking Amish. My favorite probably was the Circus on Showtime, which was sort of a political interview show / breaking news, which was insane and wonderful and a great team of people. And I can't believe they canceled it before the election year of 2024, but that's not my decision. And then the other thing I did was I worked with Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project, which is an international nonprofit. They flew me out to Romania I got to travel twice to do that, and that was really great. And actually, one of those two projects won a prize that was a completely unexpected thing, and I was like, So I am officially an award-winning editor.
Did you have to be bilingual for that gig?
I did. It was, both of those documentaries took place in Ukraine, and a lot of the footage was Russian and Ukrainian. I don't want to start any trouble, but the two languages are close enough that I am fluent in Russian, and through context, there were also Ukrainian journalists involved. I sort of was able to work on Ukrainian sections of it as well.
That's awesome.
And English.
I want to kind of have a record of how different it is post-COVID. Like, I've always kind of had an office space in my house, but did you have a articulate, like, desk like that?
No, I was on a job when COVID hit. And as it was starting to spread in New York and people were concerned, I talked to my post supervisor at the time and I said, hey, do you think we're going remote? And he looked me dead in the eye and he goes, no, we don't have, I think there's some variation of like, never, we don't have the capability to do that. And literally a week later, we were fully remote. Like, our job you can do remotely. Is it a great fit for every show? Probably not.
Is it a great fit for every editor?
It's definitely not. I mean, I know editors who have a really hard time with it. I didn't for 5 years until now, when I sort of feel like, okay, there is an element missing, not necessarily creatively, but personally, interpersonally. Like, you know, you had to drive from but you had to come from Long Island for us to hang out. Like, it's hard because everybody has personal lives and, you know, and when we were in the office, we could just BS for 30 minutes. We used to BS, which is not a secret.
It's also a thing.
Which is like...
We talk about it a lot.
Well, for sure. Right. That's
what
we could talk about it later, or we could talk about it now. but inevitably, you know, whether it's a difficult notes process, or you are stumped, or the footage doesn't lend itself to what people want it to be, you walk away. I mean, like any creative process, they always say like, oh, just walk away. And then your brain does the work in the background, and then you come back and you figure it out. And the same thing, you talk to somebody and your brain does the work in the background. You come back, sit down, and bang it out, hopefully.
Which is a great segue into the process. Can you describe how you would approach a TLC show? The components being generally the scene verite that they went and shot and an interview.
Sure. I mean, every show is different. Like, when you and I worked on that process is completely different from, I think, probably every other show that I've worked on, because that is just truly unscripted madness. Where they just set up a bunch of cameras, like, hopefully we get something really good. And then that process is just you going, like, sinking into despair and madness as you're like, where's the story in these idiosyncratic people? On a normal show, you either have a producer who puts together a story for you, sort of an outline, and then a lot of times you say, this is good or this is terrible, I'm gonna look at the stuff myself and redo it using this as the sort of like basic framework. Or if there's no producer or there's no time for a producer to look at stuff, which also happens, you know, I'll go into the raw and I'll say, hopefully this is a 30 to 45 minute scene that needs to be 2.5 minutes. It's easy enough to watch it down. I'll either throw down markers that say, this is good, this is good, this is good, this is good, or I'll just throw it all into a sequence, put together a skeleton that's 5 minutes, and then I walk away and I come back and I look at it and I'm like, well, this is a pile of trash. and then I get it down to, 4 minutes. And I will do the camera switches on a multicam show. I'll do the L cuts. I'll clean up the audio. And it'll basically be a rough cut with no score. The pacing will, I know approximately what I want to pause there. So I'll throw in a reaction shot. And then I'll score, because I think scoring is a whole sort of separate thing, and I don't like to do it until the story is set. To me, story comes first on almost any show, unless you're doing clip shows. I've worked on enough docu soaps that the interviews that they recorded are good to the extent that, the people in the field did a good job. But so many times you just write new interviews. Either you wrote it or the producer wrote it, or you all rewrote each other's stuff. And that's the part about the craft that I sort of didn't realize until later, is we learn our characters' voices as we work on these shows. So if it's a repeat character on a docusoap on Real Housewives or whatever, you learn how they speak, and you write what they would say, how they're likely to respond to a situation, and you write that in the interview. Let's wait for that helicopter to pass. That is somebody flying from the Hamptons or from JFK to Wall Street.
The schedules being truncated is another theme of they're either cutting back on the people or cutting back on the time.
Sure.
And how do you produce that?
I've been on shows where the production was not mismanaged exactly, but more money was spent through no fault of the network necessarily. There's a lot of, sometimes executive producers get in their heads and they go, hey, I want it like this. And it's we're pretty sure that's not what the network wants. But okay.
Because who's your client?
Because the person paying your bills is the showrunner and the production company. Half the time it's they're mistaken, or the other half the time they think they can convince the network that this is better. Maybe it is better, but ultimately the network is a bunch of suits that need to maximize their profit. I've worked on later seasons of shows, and you look back on previous seasons and you're like, oh, that's, that audio is clipped. That music sting is not great. That all is fine. That show that wasn't made 100% perfect got renewed and greenlit. If you want to speed something up, be okay with it not being perfect.
Right.
Because if you want to speed it up and it has to be perfect, that's more money.
Yeah. When the showrunner is like, can you just do this thing? You know that you have to work late to do it, to appease them, just to probably undo it, so on and so forth. And that's where
Sure.
taking advantage of your goodwill and all that kind of stuff starts to come into play, because it's not always in the interest of finishing the show. Because my mentality has always been, the show must go on. I don't care if I'm getting browbeaten. I'm still going to deliver my cut or whatever. I don't care if there's a drama with the talent. We got to figure it out, sort of, problem solve. How do you get through it?
I think editors have a sense of ownership over a show. Once you spend enough time on it, you commit enough of your mental creative resources to it, you have a sense of ownership, and you say, I'm going to make this the best that I can. You just, you don't have enough time with it.
Yeah. And that's a situation when they just slot you in, there's not much compassion for your process, what you need to feel comfortable with the work that you're doing. And sometimes you're hired as a soldier to just drop in, trial by fire, and then pull out. That's the gig sometimes. But I definitely will take personal care to make sure the female talent looks attractive, sounds attractive, and smart. And I'll do these things.
Sure, yeah.
Because I just care for some reason.
Yeah, I've definitely done that on shows where I'm like, we're crossing a line here with this take that we're not with a different take. that I don't feel comfortable with. I've pushed back on some things that I'm like, I don't think we should be saying that.
Right. And I believe in the process, right? Like some of the worst stuff, if they choose to run it up the ladder, somewhere somebody is like, no, whether it be the network lawyers or
Right.
the head of the production company. I trust the process most of the time. But I can say there's like one time I was working on a show where we were like emasculating somebody who is brilliant and was victimized, and they did not deserve it. And I just couldn't function on that show, and I ended up, like on my out date, I was gone because I had trouble operating under this whole, like, treating him like that. I know when you sell your soul to the devil when you sign up to be on a reality show, but it was just a step too far.
I have made my peace with the bigger franchises, like Real Housewives, Love and Hip Hop, because unlike the sort of single season characters on a reality show, those people know by season 2 exactly what is happening.
Yes.
I don't feel great about what they're doing sometimes or how they're presenting themselves, but I'm like, okay, this is, you know what you're doing.
That's the trade-off for them.
That's the trade-off, yeah.
Don't you love it when you get the kind of star that like really knows what the job is? They show up on time. They give you the lines you want. They say all the words.
Can I as an aside,
They pick themselves up.
I watched Vanderpump Rules, and I've never worked on it, but my first reaction was like, these are professionals. They walk in, they're like, okay, you have me for 3 to 5, 6 hours today. Let's bang out these scenes. I'm ready. And then, sign my paycheck or whatever.
Pay me
Pay
on
me.
time. What's changed?
I used to have people reach out to me because I was in the office with them and I worked with them, and they just had, they just saw me, whether it was previous show or 6 months ago or within 9 months. And now people still know me, but it becomes this, just like we deal with people online. It's just a name. It's not a person.
Do you relate to people with their Slack icon? Like you just have trouble picturing them as anything?
Yes. Yeah. The last job, my Slack icon was this photo of me. It was very prominently my face with like a beautiful flower behind my ear. And I thought, well, this is goofy. And then I decided that that's fine because at least people know what I look like.
There's some jobs where it's like it's just their initial, like N for Nick.
Yeah.
And then I get them mixed up with Noah.
Yeah.
That's a different color N.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's where I am now professionally, is I realize that I have to rebuild those connections. I think the other thing that's, reestablished so that I am on top of people's minds and they can be like, I know you. I just had a nice conversation. We sat down for a podcast together. That was great. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think the other thing, I don't know if this is true for everyone, but what I feel is that I used to get jobs through other editors. So, you would have a job, they were looking for somebody, and that connection was made from another editor I know to the EP. And now I don't think that's necessarily true. I think now you have to have a connection directly to the EP.
Because why? Why is there all this trust that they need to have in an editor? Or they have to know?
Well, I think they just have to know. I think that we have become more interchangeable. I think that there's less loyalty to the team that you've worked with before. And so you have to establish these closer connections with the hiring, whoever does the hiring, and part of because of remote work, that sort of exacerbated this sort of like, oh, an editor is just a pair of hands feeling that some people have.
Yeah.
Because yes, we are, but you don't see what goes into sort of the process. The new generation of producers and showrunners and decision makers that thinks that things magically get done somewhere in the ether can't compare it to the bad work right? So it's kind of just like the ether has produced. I guess they don't have a basis for comparison, right? Which I think is problematic, because then you can't tell what's a good edit, what's a bad edit.
Right. So one of the things that's changed is available work for editors. You may not have necessarily run into that, but a lot of folks have and are perpetually unemployed. Like, I've known people divorcing, losing their houses. It's really bad out there and heartbreaking, because they're all perfectly talented, intelligent, capable people. And there used to be a 26, 24 episode order. Now there's 8. So the teams are smaller, the schedule is shorter. Can you speak to that at all? Like, what the market looks like to you and what you've seen out there in the wild?
2 things that I've noticed is lots of shows are being greenlit still. Like, I decided I was going to subscribe to Real Screen. And of course, they won't say X number of shows got canceled. They'll just be like, this show got greenlit and this show got greenlit. That's what they're there for, to promote other people's shows. But still, it leaves you with an impression that production companies are making deals. Networks are making deals. People are selling content. Who is working on those shows? I don't think I realized quite the extent to which people saying YouTube is such a mammoth content provider is that there are jobs for YouTube. One of the jobs that I saw recently was they're hiring editors. What they assume that it's a different skill set, and I don't know what it pays exactly. But that's where I think it's going. Like, whereas the networks or production companies may not be hiring as much, there are YouTube outfits that hire editors. I don't know what the jobs are like in the streamer, online creator market, but it is very different. And I think when things change that much, it's always really hard for people. It's always an adjustment. This is why, like, coal miners didn't become software engineers, even though they were like, hey, we provide classes for you, please, please become something else. Coal mines are closing. And they were like, no, we are coal miners. We have to learn new skills.
Yeah.
I've used Media Composer for overwhelming number of my jobs. There's a lot of jobs that require After Effects. And it's a question of how much knowledge of After Effects you need, but After Effects is a whole separate skill set. People do amazing things with it. Do you want me to, like, add some keyframes to After Effects? I can do that. Do you want me to design a whole graphic? That is a different skill set. That is, I don't want to call myself an artist, but let's say editors are artists in one sense, and graphic artists are artists in a very different sense. It's like you wouldn't ask, I don't know, a carpenter to, like, draw a Cezanne painting or something. It's not the same skill set.
I know I've talked to folks who, like, not even emotionally prepared. I think the coal miners analogy is a good one. The layman might be like, your job went away, think of something else to do or whatever, and it's never that easy. And what is transferable as a skill?
Well, and if you look on LinkedIn, there's a whole, like, subgenre of people appealing to the greater business world, usually on behalf of producers, TV producers, and basically saying, hey, world, please, they have these transferable skills. Hire them for something else that requires, organization, storytelling, whatever, communication. This is the same way that for editors, like, we are doing network shows, or cable shows, and then people are like, well, but do you have Prime experience? You're putting together a show. I know how to put together a show. Are your notes in a different language? Like, I know how to address notes. I know how to score a piece. I know about pacing. I know how to tell a story. And that's always been the case. Like, that was the case 10 years ago when people said, do you have Bravo experience? It never made sense to me that you had to have a particular experience for the skill set that you already have anyway.
And I think that what they mean is, do you have verite experience or do you have talking head with whiz-bang effects experience?
I think you could legitimately argue that those are slightly different skills. I think a good editor can adjust.
If the producers know the language. I've been in situations where I'm sitting there perfectly capable of doing the thing, but sometimes producers, and this is where their insecurity comes from, if they have them, is they know that they don't understand the magic and voodoo that you do, and they're afraid of it, or they can't tell you. There's like a competition show, for example, I was on, where they were really frustrated with me for whatever reason that I'm not sure I understand, but my takeaway was they couldn't explain it to me. Because I'm kind of literal. Maybe I'm hard to talk to sometimes, maybe. But again, that's me like turning it around on myself when really it's like, why can't anybody get a talented or at least capable person to do this thing?
Well, yes, and that on some productions, I've worked on really buttoned up productions that are like, here's the Bible for our show. They're great. You just read that, you like forget something, reference it, and that's right. You prefer to not have wall-to-wall music.
Yeah.
You prefer to have like comedy pacing, so like really hit on the joke.
Yeah.
Great. You have a previous season that I can watch on my first day, because even within the format, shows differ in how they approach things. Great. Like, just provide some kind of context. A good post-production will always onboard you.
If our future are these branded things and YouTube, how do you think that dynamic will play out?
I think just like any big change, we're going to lose some people. I think that there are people with different experience that will take their spots. I just yesterday spoke to somebody who was a friend of mine who is working with his friend who is a personality, and they're working to develop that brand together. You find... This is where it sort of works a little bit against the editors if we're just editors, where, again, we're somewhat introverted. But the idea with branding and advertising writ large is that you have to, this is why I did not necessarily stay in advertising, is because you constantly have to put yourself out there. Not in, you have to talk to people and connect to people and schmooze with people and all of that stuff. And I think the same thing is if it's, to get in the door of those things, you have to make your presence known, or create your own content, and then you can point to that content as an example of like, I can do it, let me in. Unfortunately, I think it's like any big change in any industry, you just have to adapt. One thing that I don't love is when we editors or anybody just sit around and go like, woe is me, this sucks, why aren't things like they were 15 years ago? And it's like, I also hate it. We all hate it. Nobody loves this. But it's like, and it's absolutely gets harder the longer you are in an industry to do something different. But the flip side of that is that if you can do something different, it doesn't have to be a wholesale new thing, is that it can be really exciting. We are craftspeople. We got into this because we enjoyed making something. And now we get to learn how to either make the same thing a slightly different way or how to make something new. And it's really tricky if you do that by yourself. I've told other people, like I took a class at, there's a studio in Brooklyn, and I think every borough has one, that just offers classes, right? You just go in there and you learn After Effects or whatever, Premiere or videography or something else, podcasting, with a group of people. Sometimes they're very young, sometimes they're your age, sometimes they're older, and all those people there want to create. And, just be in the room with people that are ready to create and are bursting with that sort of energy, and it just feels better. You're not alone in your struggle of like, why is everything different? I think we just have to go with it. And I, if there's any branding people and streamers and creators out there, like, definitely editors are capable of doing what you need us to do. Definitely hire us. And also we should just try to practice that aspect of it, that new content ourselves, however poorly we do it initially.
Yeah.
That's my inspirational speech.
No, that's good. And it's totally exactly how I wanted to wrap out, is like how you saw the future of editing.
I mean, there is also the AI aspect of it. Lots of people are going to lose their jobs. How are they going to support their families and themselves?
Well, they don't.
They don't.
They descend into poverty and drug
That's right.
addiction.
Yes. Not enough Trader Joe's to employ all those people.
Right.
The way that the federal government tried to help the coal miners, I wish that there was a way that we as an industry supported people's transitions, either with additional skill learning on a non-for-profit basis, or different careers or something. That's the thing, is like, well, you in particular have always been a creator since I've known you. Like, you were always doing things and building things, and so that this does not surprise me at all. But I think that's what is a little bit of what we have to do, because that's where I know it sounds dumb and cliche, but like the spark comes from the doing. And so I think whether this turns into a IP or not, it'll lead you to other things. Like, and you're having these conversations with coworkers in the industry, and at the very least, it goes back to the thing that I was saying, is like, you're reestablishing connections. And you come across as the like initiator, as the doer, because you are doing. I'm sitting on my couch just da-da-dang.
Well, you've only been doing it 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing this. I really appreciate your input. You've always been a person I went to, because you always seem to like get what I'm doing somehow. Most people don't, so I always appreciated that. But.
Yeah, I'm happy to do it. It's I'm in my say yes phase. Say yes to things.
Ilya and other editors are the real unsung heroes, masters of character and story, but reality TV editing is quietly retiring from that reality. The job market for editors is changing fast. Even with all these shifts, storytelling through editing is what it's all about, because there's no shortage of a need for content. We'd like to thank Ilya for taking the time to talk with me. You can find him and his work at ilyatheeditor.com or on LinkedIn /in/Ilya the Editor. That's ILYA theeditor.com. Music in this episode is provided by DJ Williams, whose work you can find on YouTube at DJW Music, also linked in the show notes. Post-production services are provided by Audio Photosynthesis. We'd like to thank our sponsor, Kizzlekit. To shop for your very own lifestyle accessories, go to www.kizzlekit.com. That's KIZZLEKIT.com. Next week on Behind the Carnival Barkers, I take the train to see longtime friend and colleague Scott Roseanne, who's hilarious as always. Please follow us on social media for the schedule, upcoming guests, and other programming notes and updates. Sign up for our newsletter at carnivalbarkers.substack.com. And please hit that like button if you enjoyed the conversation.